Welcome. Hi, I'm Roopal Patel, fashion director at Saks Fifth Avenue, and I'm so excited to be here today with my friend JJ Martin, founder and creative director of the DoubleJ. Hi.
Hi, Roopsie.
Benvenuti a Montauk.
Grazie mille. Hi, everybody. We are actually not in Italy, although we do see each other from time to time in Milan when you come for Fashion Week. We are in Montauk.
We are actually at the Crow's Nest on a steamy summer day. And we are excited because we're going to talk about something that we've been wanting to discuss for a very long time, JJ. We're here to talk about our spiritual practices and sort of how we found our way, and to share a little bit of that with the Saks customer today.
Absolutely. I found that, interestingly, this has been a practice that I have been cultivating over the last 9 years, but I didn't really share it with the public, at least not with my company's audience or community, until COVID hit. And we were all sitting at home. Mm-hmm. I was locked in my apartment in Milan, unable to even leave the apartment. The lockdown was very severe. So I just got on the horn on Instagram and started sharing some of what happened to me, some of the tools that I was using. And I noticed that so many women responded really positively to this. And I loved the fact that the same woman that was attracted to my company, to the clothes, to the prints, was also the same woman that wanted to open her heart, turn off her mind, expand her consciousness, and fly. So that was a beautiful kind of realization.
Well, I remember that day on Instagram and I was like, whoa, JJ went there. Like she really opened up this space of talking about a spiritual journey. And I think in business, in fashion, as entrepreneurs, we don't speak enough about sort of some of the struggles and sort of how we are dealing with it, and the spiritual practice that we're utilizing in our day to day to keep up. And, you know, for a very long time, I feel that spirituality was considered to be this weird, like you're hokey, it's crunchy, it's very crispy.
You're a witch.
And now it's actually, especially with the pandemic, as you said, like sitting at home and really diving deep into your practice, it's really something that is being celebrated, and more people are sharing and opening up about their practices and how it's helped them grow, you know, just grow, I think is the word. And I'd like to ask you, you know, about your, like, how did you get into into spirituality and into your practice? Like, how did it find you? Because I feel it finds many of us.
Yeah. Well, I grew up Catholic and had a pretty, I would say, negative experience with religion at an early age, just because I felt so judged and criticized and sort of limited. I never felt that this was something that I could really relate to from a heart standpoint. And so in my mind, religion and spirituality were intertwined. And so I didn't ever have this on my radar as something that I wanted to do. Of course, I had a yoga practice. I started yoga in the late 90s in New York when I was living there. And that really, I'll never forget my first yoga class at Bhakti Yoga in downtown New York. And it was a very slow, sweet yoga practice. And it allowed me to go inside my body to such a deep degree that I burst into tears. And that was actually a spiritual experience, because really when we talk about
right,
you're really connecting to your all levels of your being. And so much of a spiritual practice is just that, learning that you are so much more than your mind and so much more than your body. And your body is actually this well of wisdom that is holding so much information, grief, trauma, joy, consciousness, all these different things. So the spiritual practice unlocks that, which is beautiful. And I never really understood that until I actually went in a deep dive into my spiritual practice, which happened, like most people have some sort of awakening when something bad happens to them. And that's what happened to me. I had an infertility nightmare, and I had tried for 5 years unsuccessfully to get pregnant. Actually, I did get pregnant 3 times and I had to abort the fetuses because they were always untenable chromosomically. This was just like my body was just filled with all these chemicals and pharmaceuticals. My body and my heart knew that that was not my path, but my mind and my ego were so attached to just plowing forward. I was going to conquer that, just like I had conquered my journalism career and conquered, starting a new company. And I didn't really realize that this was really an opportunity. This is another big learning lesson I found, is that whenever life delivers you those, trays of misery or pain, there is always something in it for you to learn. And it almost always presents a pretty magnificent opportunity. It's like a portal. And if you're willing to look at that pain, go in, dig deeper, and just excavate, it's like a wondrous treasure waiting to be discovered. So through that process, at the very end, I was so exasperated. I was like, I'm done with Western medicine. I'm done with it. I'd had also an early death of a parent in my life and went through times of depression. So I'd had this pain in my life. And I found the very day that I made the decision to no longer do IVF, that very day I went to a lunch and a friend handed me the name of an energy healer, Elizabeth Manning, who was my very first teacher. And she was an angel on earth. And she really opened up these doors for me.
They always say the teacher appears when the student is ready in the spiritual practice. Like your guru, your shaman, your energy, they all appear when you're, I guess, the light bulb goes off and you start attracting that vibe, that energy, that frequency.
And when you have the intention. Yes. I literally that day had finally put my heels down and said, no, I want something else. And it appeared.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it was really, really, really powerful. And the other thing that's really remarkable, I find, is that, in addition to being ready and then the teacher appears, once you find one teacher, I kept opening more doors. The more doors I would unlock in myself, more doors were appearing out there, different techniques, different teachers, different things. I mean, there's so many tools and ways and roads to get there. And by the way, religion is also one of those ways to get there. It just didn't work for me. So a lot of this is also trying to figure out what it is that speaks to you and that puts you in a place of, first of all, just deep peace and heart opening, because that's the start of it, is calming the mind, shutting off the mind, and starting to open these other sensors within yourself that are much more intelligent.
Well, I think that's something too, when we think of our senses, right? And the breathing, and it is heart and it is mind, but it is these feelings. And there was so much going on that we think about the chakras and we think of meditation and we think of breathing. I mean, there are so many different methods that we can take and techniques in our day to day to help us out. And I think your spiritual journey, when we started talking about it, I think I DM'd you on Instagram. I was like, hey,
what are you doing?
You're doing this too? I'd love to connect and speak more. And I did. I think it's interesting to learn from each other as well within 100%. The practice of things 100%. That, here, I come to you and I ask you questions. You come to me and then you share. And with other friends and journeys, it's how can we expand our consciousness? And
this is so important what you said. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, please.
But
that's
a lot of people think that, a spiritual journey is about going to find a guru. It's not.
No.
It's about you understanding that you are your own guru. So the teachers come in so many different forms. And by the way, the teacher can also be the guy that just cut you off on the freeway and pissed you off. Okay. That's also the teacher for you to understand and come to terms with your own anger and how to manage it.
Yes. No.
And practice patience and practice tolerance and forgiveness. So, so the teachers can come in sort of these day-to-day irritations, But then, as you were just saying, the teachers can also be in the retreat you go on. You're not just being taught by the teacher. You're being taught by the people that are in your circle. You're being taught by the people that you work with. So this is about a new form of student teacher relationship that's really about, it's a more equanimous, like it's a more even playing field. It's not patriarchal. It's not hierarchical. We're more in a circle now where we're all sharing information rather than, oh, this one here has all the information. That's the old model.
No, for sure. I think I think especially after these 3 years, because we say 2, but I always feel like it's 3.
I think it's 3.
I think it's 3 now. I think especially now there's more, I think, sense of community and sharing and synergy of ideas. This idea that, to me, it's not, spirituality is not a moment. It's not like you do this and then like, poof, you're cured, right? Like, oh, I'm amazing. I'm enlightened. I've reached nirvana. It's a continuous evolution, exploration, reflection period, because life is always happening. You're always evolving and bringing it all together.
And the most important thing is to understand that your spiritual practice doesn't end when you get off the mat or out of your meditation. It actually begins when you pick up your phone and get triggered by the email that was just written to you.
Yes,
that's when your spiritual practice begins.
And I think you raised a very good point. It happens in the guy that just cut you off in traffic. It happens on that email. Like, we all, especially right now, like the energy in the air is so electrified. We're all dealing with all of these things on a day-to-day basis, that being grounded, having space, having patience, taking a breath, it's hard.
Yes.
It's hard to be like, oh, wait, let me just not react right now to that. Let me just be. So I think, that's part of also what we were talking about getting together and talking about, is kind of taking the stigma out of, or like, what did we say?
Taking the woo-woo out of spiritual wellness.
She does that so well, doesn't she? I think so. Like, talking about that, it's like, okay, hey, like I've been in my journey now for 15, 20.
And what prompted it for you?
15, 20 years. I also had a big breakup, fiance at the time, engagement ended. I was 29 years old, right before we met. And I actually grew up in a Hindu household. So I was always surrounded by deities and goddesses and incense and divas and all. And I was like, Mom, like, this is really interesting. This is like very, very interesting now that we talk about it. You
were bobbing in the juices and you just weren't aware of it.
I didn't know about it.
Yeah.
But no, oddly enough, so when my breakup happened, I kind of went on, I was depressed. I was sad. I was heartbroken. I didn't have the tools I needed to handle the trauma that just impacted my life. And probably a few years of being basically like escaping, I went on a date. And at that dinner, I met an acupuncturist by the name of Sherry Outh, who is amazing. And she's a spiritual worker and light healer. And doing my work with Sherry, one day the needles just flew out of my heart. And she's like, oh, Rupal, your heart chakra is closed. And I was like, no joke. Like, what'd you expect?
No joke.
That's what we're here for.
It is the iron curtain around my heart right
yes.
now.
And she's like, I want to give you a book. And I said, okay. She gave me a book by Dr. Villa Lobos and Four Winds Society, that was about a book about shamanism and the practices of shamanism. And she suggested that I connect with and meet this shaman. I was like, shaman, what's that? And I went, not knowing. And my spiritual journey began the day I met Dr. Faucio, who I still work with today. And we cleared up, not just from the breakup, but just a lot of different things that I had been holding, whether it was my self-worth or being deserving or coming from a different background, growing, all of these things, family things, religion, whatever it might be.
I mean, there's things to clear from last week, 10 years ago, from when you were a child and from past lifetimes. Like
From
it's all held and stored in our DNA and in our cells.
and it's a process. And I remember being like, when is this going to feel good? Like when is this? Because I remember screaming at him, being like, I hate this, because you just are like, letting go of so much and bringing up things that you don't really want to. It's like going to a therapist, but like having like a super wand on top of you that like zaps it out immediately. But as a result of that, like flash forward, I think every time I think I'm like not in a spiritual practice, there's something that like comes back to like bring me back in. And, there's like that shadow that we all carry so much of this weight and we carry so much of this baggage. Like with each time, like your bag gets a little bit lighter and you
totally.
So I think that's that, I think it's been one of the best things I've done in my life. Like for me, it's a check-in with myself. It's a check-in with my soul. It's making sure we're aligned. And it's actually helped me get through some of the big things. The pandemic, I think I was meditating. Like my meditation practice was
Zooming,
happening every single day without fail, journaling, connecting, seeing the shaman. I had a breakup during the pandemic. So I think when that started to happen, it just like, again, like everything comes back to my toolbox. And that toolbox is spirituality, is the spirituality. And again, it's something different for everyone, but I'm curious because like we talk about like you've been doing this, I've been doing this, and we've got like our little Rolodex of, like for the tune-up Reiki shaman, I went on a retreat. You've been going on a lot of retreats. If we had to say like to the Sax community, like our audience, our community, it's not even our community right now. Like someone wants to get into a spiritual practice. Like, what are some of the things that you would say to a novice to be like, hey, like maybe just check this out for a little bit?
Well, there's many different ways to do it. There's no right way to do it. And the very first thing that you have to understand is that you are the best barometer of this practice. So if it's resonating inside your body, meaning when you hear the idea, when you go the first time to try something, if there is a sense of peace, a sense of release and relief, you're in the right place. If your stomach's in knots and you have a sick stomach, probably not. Okay. So this is a purely intuitive practice. That's what this spiritual practice is. It has nothing to do with logic. It has nothing to do with proof or science or anything like this. I mean, this is where the magic of life unfolds. Okay. That's the first thing to understand. So you yourself are the best judge of this. I always like to say, people are very impressed by the kind of bells and whistles of spirituality. So they love their ayahuasca journey. They love the energy healer that made them feel like they were levitating. They love doing these, sort of having that kind of physical, fantastic sensation. And there's nothing wrong with those. And they're very helpful. But I find that the very first things that are even more important to do is the housekeeping that you need to do in your body, in your mind, and in your heart. Okay. Because you're not going to successfully really tap into and squeeze all the brilliance that is awaiting you in your spirit, in your soul, in your energy body, in your divine DNA and all of that. You're not going to truly access that if these other realms are not cleared first. So when we're talking about that, we're even referring to the chakra system.
Right.
So it's the first three chakras. It's the root, the sacral, and the solar plexus. This is the sort of like bargain basement, reptilian, old school human nature. This is like all the stuff we don't want to deal with. All of our pain, all of our trauma, all of our drama, everything that it's like literally there. Okay. Once this gets cleared, and then you have the freedom to open your heart and speak your truth, then your third eye and your crown start just rocking and rocketing. Okay. So I find, and again, there's no right way. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to tell you what works for me. And what I advise people is to really start in the lower chakras. And that means yes, energetically, but it means more almost symbolically. Okay. So the root chakra deals with safety, security. The second chakra is all about self-worth. It's your sexual chakra. It's your fertility. You're not going to, I mean, this is what came up with me with the infertility.
Right.
There was a lot of shame and anger I had about my own emotional state. So I am a super empath. I feel things to like the 65th degree. And I, for a lot of different reasons, always felt very ashamed when I felt angry, scared, or in pain or vulnerable. I would judge myself for having those feelings. That's going to totally shut down the second chakra. Okay. Then the third chakra here is all of your control center. So those of us who are control freaks, and I would guarantee most of you that run a business or run a big department at a very big national department store, we're big on control. I mean, this is just, and also Americans are big on control. This is something I had to learn moving to Italy 20 years ago. I had to surrender to control. I mean, nothing was ever open. All the bank machines were always broken. Like, I mean, I would call the plumber. He would arrive 6 days later when my house was flooding. I mean, it was like there was just no control over anything. And control is one of the things that prevents us the most from really reaching the deeper and most profound levels of consciousness, because we're scared to let go. We're scared to surrender. For me, one of the best tools for cleansing these chakras is actually doing a deep and honest excavation of your own shadows. So it's about confronting your fears. It's about noticing where you withdraw in life, or conversely, where you're too aggressive, too assertive, because both of those are coming from a place of fear. So the first thing to do is really start looking at this. And some therapists and psychiatrists do a good job of that. I have found in my own life, not that many do a great job of it. And more spiritual circles are helping you to really start looking at your shadow work. So that's one thing. The other thing that is so important is focusing on your thoughts. Okay. So if you are someone who is always judging, always criticizing, always kind of in that punishing mind frame, that's a killer. That is a heart killer. And it's really about starting to kind of reframe things. It's not to say that you shouldn't be feeling your emotions, because always you should. And you need to learn how to start processing those, listening to them, giving them a sacred space, and then letting them go like water. So this is about the control in the third chakra of just like letting it go and starting fresh, practicing gratitude, forgiveness, mercy, tolerance. These are words that are not, they're words we know, but we don't practice that much as Americans.
What I think is also just, and that's how we're doing 3 series. This is the first. So these are really interesting, even for myself. And it's mercy, forgiveness. Those are big. Those are big words. And I think the part of it goes back to being vulnerable. And in this practice, gratitude is something, I love how you start with gratitude, of just being grateful for one step out of the bed in the morning, or grateful for your cup of coffee. I've read about a few different practices of gratitude, and in the morning, giving thanks, at night, giving thanks for 5 things that, you're excited about in your day, and things that end your day. I started doing like a gratitude, like for my coffee, I'm like, oh my God, gratitude coffee. Like, good morning. Like, thank you.
Cafe gratitude.
Cafe gratitude. I love a gratitude coffee. Just to be like, thanking things, and people think it's so, but I do think that.
Thank the sun when it rises. Thank the moon when it rises. Thank the stars. I mean,
I love
thanking
that.
Mother Earth. It's so important. The earth itself is a potent energy being, filled with energy and wisdom. to pass to you. So a lot of this is just slowing down, stopping the sort of critical mind,
Right.
getting into stillness as much as you can. So I know we all lead very busy lives, but it's a requirement. You have got to carve out time for yourself.
We talked about this because we were talking, you're like, how long do you meditate? Do you meditate? And I'm like, yes, JJ, I meditate. And I know that you have your meditation practice daily. I have my meditation practice daily. And I think that's something that it's hard, but when you like, the practice of doing it every day, it's like cleaning
a ritual.
It's a ritual, and it's like cleaning your inside. It's like spiritual housekeeping for your insides. You clean it out every day, and it does a body good. It does a soul good. So,
but it's also not how long you meditate. It's not about that at all, because then that's like competitive and weird. It's literally, how can I carve that space into my life where I'm giving back to myself and I am in a state of listening and receiving. That's the state you need to be in order to gain more consciousness.
Well, and I think that's something of like everything you do is very mindful, right? Like I think getting to know, like I've known you, but like now I really feel like we've gone to a different level of friendship and connection. And even in business, like understanding that so much of this, and this is who you were before you created the DoubleJ. And thinking about like, wow, so there's vibe in the clothes. There's like all these pretty prints and these colors and these textures, and they make sense to me now. I was like thinking, oh, la dolce vita. No, so it's like her spiritual highness is really what's going on. So tell me a little bit about the vibe and the vibration that when you're designing and you started this company, like, because the energy is part of your company, of your brand.
Absolutely. So after I started working with that first energy healer, who was a fertility expert, by the way, 9 months later, I kid you not, I gave birth to my company, DoubleJ. So it's not a coincidence. Part of your spiritual practice is about raising your vibration in all ways, with your thoughts, with how you speak, what you read. So if you're reading gloom and doom news all day, that's going to lower your vibration, right? Then you can also raise your vibration, the foods you eat, cut out the meat, cut out the heavy fried foods, cut out the coffee, the alcohol, all of those things lower your vibration. Then there's ways to raise your vibration that are fun and pleasurable and easy. Most ways to raise your vibration, like clothes. And it's so true that color and print, color has a vibration. The chakra system is designated by colors. So each color has an energetic frequency.
When we think of your dress right now, there's colors, there's fringe, like everything has like a sense of joy, I feel, in the collection. And that's something I see, and we can most certainly go through that a little bit later.
Absolutely.
But I think that's interesting. Just like the practice of who you are as a being, as a soul, has come into your company, has become part of the ethos and the brand. And I think it's wonderful that like I'm looking at a pink, pink and yellow and turquoise and just fun colors and prints that we can share a little bit on screen as well for everyone to see, because they make you feel happy. And I think I always found in fashion, like when I wear a color, my mood immediately lifts. I'm always happier. And also to other people around me, people will stop me in the street like, oh, I love that orange dress you're wearing. Orange is my favorite color as a dress in clothes. So it's always something that I feel it makes other people vibe higher too.
Because you are a reflection. When you are throwing out an energetic, other people are going to receive that, both negative and positive.
Right. It's interesting though, because like now I'm so excited because we've been working together at the DoubleJ and Saks for some time now, but you're also sort of expanding the DoubleJ and the horizons and all that you're doing. We got to
blanket the planet with joy. And by the way, what I wanted to say is that joy is one of the highest vibrational emotions.
But that's like
right after love.
See, when like you're bringing joy, right? I feel like JJ walks in and you're like, It's right. It's just like the volume is like,
But that's not to say I don't have my moments. I have a Scorpio moon. I can go to the dark side. I can
we
have
all
super
can.
shadow moments. The trick is that emotional housekeeping. You've got to clear your vessel so that then you are able to receive all that light and then give it back and boomerang it. And these are the first steps of a spiritual practice. I mean, we'll get later to the more like sexy spiritual tips in our future.
I can't wait
moments.
to like meditating with you. I think would just be like, whoa. But let's talk a little bit, because now I think like now we're breaking the seal a little bit. We're like, hey, like here's how you can get into your spiritual practice. Here are some things. But like, let's say someone's like, oh my God, I really want to turn the volume up like immediately. I've got some really big things going on. I need support, right? I need space. I know that you have, in addition to opening up and being very vulnerable and sharing your spiritual journey, I know that you now also are hosting and bringing people who are interested along for the journey with some of the retreats that DoubleJ is hosting. There's one coming up in Egypt, I believe. Tell us about this.
Egypt, October 15th to the 26th. I went in April. It was the most life-changing experience of my life. We were guided by a high priestess who's been leading journeys there for 16 years. And I was transformed. We are co-hosting one together. So she has been instrumental in my life. I have learned so much. So the ancient Egyptian mystery school is a whole like bucket of techniques basically to expand your awareness, your consciousness, and to get you deeper inside. Again, there's other elements that we've talked about, some of which we've talked about, but like another thing that I do a lot right now is mantra chanting and singing. That's another great way, just in terms of, quick ways. Mantras are so amazing. The ancient Egyptian mystery school will put you into a totally different consciousness, and you're tapping into the actual energy in these sacred sites. You're having organ cleansings, you're doing breath work, you're doing the meditations all while you're there. It is spectacular. So
I would love
we've got a few spots left also.
I mean, this is amazing. This is like coming out and you're just glistening and clean. Like your soul, everything is just like clean. I love that. I think the retreats are something always, every time I go to a retreat, I come out feeling like I can fly. We talked about that sensation a little bit more. And I know you've hosted a few others in your store in Milano. You've done workshops downstairs. I know that you did something recently in Ischia. So I know you're constantly going around the globe looking at different ways to expand these experiences.
And to share them with people, because I think that's part of our mission.
Yes.
It's like once you get activated, it's really about, being of service to others and helping. And it's not necessarily telling people what to do. It's more about you embodying that practice and others being like weirdly attracted to you because of that. People are like, I want to drink what you're drinking. The Kool-Aid.
Which is awesome. Which is, I think, again, like just a testament to like, some days it's going to feel good. Some days it's going to be amazing. Some days it's going to suck.
Yeah.
But the journey, it's about you at the end of the day and making sure, I think peace, like all those words I love, peace, joy, happiness, love. So we talk about self-love, like all of those things come together and it's a commitment to you're making to yourself. Like it's all about you. And that's beautiful, right? So I could sit here with JJ for like days, weeks, months, talking about this. This is like part of.
We don't want to bore you.
We don't really, when we sit down for work, we talk a lot, we talk about work, but then we somehow always manage to come into this space. So we are excited to be able to bring you 2 other series, as I mentioned, which I think the next one we're hoping to connect with JJ in her Milan store. She's got a rad setup and just the energy and the vibrations and the art and everything within her space is electric.
We'll talk about the Divine Mother.
So that's going to stay tuned for that. But in the interim, the DoubleJ is live with all of those vibrant prints and things to sort of get that electricity going and all those chakras aligned. It is live on Saks.com. So
yes, it is. Please go shop it, you guys, because we are thrilled. Honestly, I'm so grateful. I'm practicing gratitude. I really am. I really, really feel it. It's just amazing to see the people that have stepped forward and supported me on this journey. And you're one of them, Rupi.
Thank you, JJ. I'm honored to be part of it. And I think there's always like a reason why people are brought together. So
yeah.
This is no coincidence, like nothing is coincidence. And this is no coincidence that we're sitting here today together.
And it's no coincidence that you're at home listening.
Yes. So we hope to see you again soon. Wishing everyone a great evening.
And a wonderful summer holiday.
See you soon.
Bye, everybody.
Ciao.
Ciao. Stay light, stay bright.